Well, I sat down to write a song about the things in the world that are going on. The more things change, the more they stay the same. The more they stay the same, oh, the more things change. Well, another year has come and gone. Inflation is putting folks overdrawn. The fat cats are cashing in to ride along. And here I am trying to write another damn song. Oh, 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 oh. You might worry, or you might fret, that anything you do, it'll put you in debt. But how you gonna make it if you don't even try? But without a degree, then you need not apply, oh.
Good evening. So here recently, I was talking to a friend of mine, and she suggested that I start a podcast. And we got to talking, and when I asked her, like, what did you have in mind for this podcast? She said, just talk, get on there and say anything and everything. So this is me, completely unscripted, talking about anything and everything. The first couple things I wanted to talk about was I wanted to start with the creative process and music, and how there seems to be a link between music and mysticism. That is to say, music and magic. That is to say that there is a very tangible effect that music has on the human mind and the human brain. For those of you who are audiophiles like me, there's something magical about when Miles Davis picks up his horn. Pause for a second. So I did in fact mean to say trumpet here, but let's continue. Or Louis Armstrong, Wonderful World, or the opening notes to Wind Cries Mary when Jimi Hendrix plays that Stratocaster. There's something tangible and magical about that. Or the conviction in Johnny Cash's voice that just hovers over you like a judge giving out rendering sentence. Like there's something about that has a very tangible effect. And so I wanted to talk a little bit about that. I wanted to talk about how when we write music, and music theory is in its own way a system of magic, to those who actually understand what I'm talking about. There's a system that corresponds with each note to a color, and then each of those colors, to those who are familiar with correspondences, each of those correspond with a planet, an element, such as that. So you can take each of these notes, each of the 12 notes of the harmonic scale, and attribute each one of those to a planet, a color, one of the four classical elements, one of the aspects of those four classical elements. And each one has certain, you could attribute certain qualities to it. I'm not going to get too far into what those might be. I'll let you decide for yourselves. But you could build a system like that around music theory. And the work is already partially done for you. And with that, considering how you're writing your music, what you're putting into your music, what thoughts and processes and effects that that's going to have on your audience. Are you healing or are you hurting them? Are you reaching out to somebody and telling them that you know where they are and you understand how they've been, or are you going to bring them down further? Are you going to lift them up? Are you going to, reveal something to them about themselves? All of music is a very powerful force within everything. And I'm not saying that music can do anything that it doesn't already do. And I'm not saying that you're going to have a power that you don't already have, right? But being more mindful about the music that you write, that we write as artists. And being more mindful of the lyrics that we place into our music. One of the things that comes to mind is like Gregorian chants, the Gregorian monks, the Christian monks, and the chants that they do to praise God. And if you've ever been in a room with something like that, it's absolutely incredible. But being mindful of the associations of the messages that we put into our music, right? Trying to put positive things out, trying to lift others up. It's okay to share experiences that may have been painful, but do so in a way that reaches out to somebody and says, hey, I know where you've been. Like, I've been there. I know what this feels like. And I've made it to the other side of it, and I want you to know that you can too. So there's always that aspect as well. I wanted to read you an excerpt. So in doing research for this, I found, to be honest, not much. But I did find one article through Google search on medium.com/mysticism. An excerpt from this article talks about, there are multiple theories about this idea. Johannes Kepler in Harmonices Mundi puts forth the concept of the celestial choir. The celestial choir Kepler formed was made up of a tenor Mars, two basses, Saturn and Jupiter, a soprano, Mercury, two altos, Venus and Earth, and Mercury with its large elliptical orbit was determined to be able to produce the greatest number of notes, while Venus was found to be capable of only a single note because of its orbit is nearly circle. I can't read this name. Francinius Gaffurius in Practica Musicae relates the spheres with extremely convoluted modes. Extremely convoluted medieval modes. Both theories are useful for Kepler's, more than that of Gaffurius. I'm sure I'm slaughtering that name. But Pythagoras, through observation, found a very useful correspondence, which coincidentally or not may have more important relationship with one of the most important symbols in Western mysticism. In the key of C, the planets ascending and descending you have the stars, which are low C to high C, Saturn, which B to D flat, Jupiter A sharp to D, Mars A to E flat, the Sun is G to F, Venus E to A flat, Mercury is D sharp to A, the Moon is D to B flat, and Earth is C to C. So each of these are based on a ratio. This says it's important to note that the Sun and the Earth and the Moon, the Sun, the Earth, the Moon, and the Sun form an interval of 3 to 2, which is a fifth. Which is the most harmonic ratio according to Pythagoras. There are two main ways of connecting the planets to other symbols. One can connect them directly to the Hebrew letters by using the tree of life or the mathesis. But you get the idea. The article continues to go on. But you get the idea. Being more attentive about the things that we put into our music. I'm going to take a short break here for a little while, and we're going to put on some music for you guys to listen to, and then come back and see what you think. Talk about it a little bit. All right?
Meet me in the morning. The sky starts to burn, but the stars turn to ashes. The moon starts to turn. Oh, meet me in the evening when the day starts to die, when the birds cease their singing and it's just you and I. Oh, meet me. Oh, meet me.
When your tongue writes its sorrows and I would not lend your ear, my eyes go into hiding as I slowly disappear. But don't you weep for me, 'cause I didn't see your pain. Just take a deep breath and sing just one more refrain, and I will meet you. I will meet Meet me in the morning when the sky starts to burn, when the stars turn to ashes and the moon starts to turn.
Oh, meet me in the evening when the day starts to die, when the birds cease their singing and it's just you and I. Oh, meet me. 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 Oh, meet me.
Welcome back. I hope you enjoyed that little song. That was called Meet Me in the Morning. So, talking a little bit about the creative process, one of the things that I like to do is carry around a little notebook in my pocket. It's just a little small, like 3x5 notebook and I'll scribble down little ideas, never anything whole or complete, but it's just maybe a line or two, something I heard somewhere that sounded really cool or sounded like a good idea. And so one day I'm going into work, right? And we're not even open yet, but this guy meets me at the door and he says, "Hey, I've been waiting for you all morning. Where have you been?" I'm like, "Dude, we don't open till 8:00. You see me unlocking the door." And so, having him sit down and wait, like, while we actually open up and do all this, it's like, it made me mad, right? It set the tone for the rest of my day in not a good way, but something about that stuck with me. Something about that phrase, "meet me in the morning," stuck with me. And so when I got home, and I'm playing around with that on guitar or piano or whatever I was writing that on, the idea played out in a very different way, as you heard in the song. And there's a lot of life experiences that ended up making their way into that song. But the initial thing was this guy met me at the door at work and pissed me off, and that just became the inspiration, the initial spark for that song. So with that, I wanted to say that literally you could take anything, literally anything, and use it for inspiration for a song. And I don't advise writing about one specific event, but I would advise taking a plethora of your life experiences and putting them into a story, right? So the story of that song and my lovely wife singing on that. The story of that song is obviously you have these two people who are in a relationship who are having communication problems. At least this is what I get from the song. They're having communication issues, and they finally sit down to talk it out, and they're talking about everything that's going on. And meet me in the morning so that we can talk this out, so that we can get all of this off of our chest, right? And so I took what was essentially a negative experience of this guy pissing me off and turned that into something more positive of this couple in the story who are working this out, right? Working through their issues, as I was also working through my own issues. But all of this rambling is to say that you can take any experience and turn it into something and use it to create beautiful art. And I'm not trying to brag about my art, but just using that as an example of like, you can use that to create art and make the world a better place, hopefully, or at least try to. And I think at the end of the day, that's all any of us can do is give our best effort, right? And like I said in the prologue, the most important thing with any creative project is to start. You may not know where you're going. You may not know where you're going to end up. You may not even know how you're going to get there. But the starting of the process is the hardest part. The starting of the process is the most important piece, because that's all you have to do. You have to take a little step. And then once you get that, take a moment, you think about it, and then you take a step further. And then you take a moment, you noodle a little bit on guitar, and then you take a step further, write a little bit more, And if you are writing a couple of lines every day or doing little word association exercises or doing any sort of writing exercises every single day, it's not going to be too long before you're going to have a whole notebook full of stuff that some of it might actually be pretty good to use. I know a lot of the stuff that I'm going through in this notebook is kind of crap, but it's important to work through those crappy ideas, because eventually either A, you might turn them into better ideas, or B, they're going to help you work out those associations, expand into other ways of writing, other ideas, and other things you can do. And then listening to music, that's another thing that can't be understated, is not just listening to the music that you like and that you want to create, but also expanding your horizons a little bit. So when I was younger, I was huge into Johnny Cash, and that was all I would listen to for a couple of years there. And then a friend of mine uh, was hounding me to listen to just literally anything else. And so I came back to him one day and I was like, I found something else that I like. I like Waylon Jennings. And they're like, yeah, that's the same church, different pew. Like, it's not that different. So started listening to a lot more music and kind of just expanding my horizons a little bit. Got into Bob Dylan and Neil Young, and started getting into a lot of the '60s music with Janis Joplin uh, and Jimi Hendrix, and then into the '70s with Chris Christopherson, and really digging into some of the songwriters, getting a little bit more into guys like Miles Davis, and then back on the classics like Wonderful World by Louis Armstrong, which is still such an incredible song, and just the quality of that raspiness of his voice. Or like another one is the man's not a singer at all, but when Clint Eastwood sings Gran Torino at the end of that movie, there's something about the gravel in his voice. Uh, or when Bob Dylan sings World Gone Wrong. None of these guys have none of these guys are Frank Sinatra, right? None of these guys are what we would call classically beautiful voices, except for the fact that they have this earthy and world weary tone that lends itself to the song in the most beautiful way. And that's what art is. It's not necessarily about any one aspect being beautiful, but taking each of these aspects and making something that is beautiful as a whole, as a collective whole. Um, Chris Christopherson, man, like I don't. My uncle David used to say that he can't sing and he can't act, but at least he can write. Uh, but I would almost argue with that, because I have personally found that there's very few people that can deliver those lines the way he does it, with that kind of world weary gravel in his voice, and kind of, it takes a special person to be able to deliver lines like that. Like, say you tried to chase the sun down, but you let it slip away, and the holy night has fallen. And ain't you come a long way down this old road? Like, it, the person singing that really has to connect to it. It's like method acting almost. You have to connect that to something that you feel, something real. And I feel like that's why it's important for artists to write their own songs and perform their own songs, because nobody's going to sing them the way that that writer or that artist would. And nobody's going to quite have the same vision. But then again, you get some of these artists that can just deliver these cover songs like nobody else can. Like Johnny Cash's Hurt. He didn't write that, but Trent Reznor even said that's no longer my song. Or when Hendrix played All on the Watchtower, Bob Dylan said the same thing. He said, it's not really the same song anymore. I can't say that I own that. So there's something to be said when an artist can connect themselves to a song in a way that is unique and special, and connects to the audience in a way that is unique and special. And bringing this back full circle, I think therein lies the magic of the music, right? Is how we connect to it, and how that music can make us feel a little bit brighter, make us feel understood, or make us feel like we understand certain things about ourselves a little bit more, or open us up to certain truths, greater, more universal truths, it's the power of storytelling is when it comes to lyrics anyways, the power of storytelling, and then how we craft the music around that to fit that story. That's the other thing is like you can ruin a good song by crafting music that doesn't fit the lyrics or crafting lyrics that doesn't fit the music. And both might be incredible in their own right, but they have to fit together, right? And only you really know what that looks like, right? The writer and the audience listening. It's something that can't really be, you can't quite put your finger on. We're going to take a short break, and then we'll be back and wrap this up.
Where do you go at night when darkness covers the light? Where do you go when you're dreaming? I hope you go far away. I hope you go far away. I hope you go far away. Where do you go in your mind when the world has you twisted in a bind? And where do you go when you're down and out? I hope you go somewhere grand. I hope you go somewhere grand. I hope you go somewhere grand. I hope that you find what you left behind, what you buried down deep in your soul, what you buried down deep in your soul, what you buried down deep in your soul. Where do you go at night? Darkness covers our eyes. Where do you go when you're dreaming? I hope you go somewhere grand. I hope you go somewhere grand. I hope you go somewhere grand.
All right. I hope you guys enjoyed that. So we're coming up on 30 minutes here. And I guess I just wanted to talk to you, rehash everything. So we kind of went over the creative process a little bit. We had some fun with some music, and I hope you guys enjoyed it. We're going to be doing lots more of this in the future, and I have good feelings about this, and I hope you do too. I hope you go forth tonight, and I hope you find what you left behind, what you buried down deep in your soul. I'm your host, Caleb Shelton, and I have truly enjoyed this tonight. Signing off. Night, y'all.